You're all very welcome to another edition of the Business of E-commerce with John Leach, the wise guru and sage that I have. He says I'm to his top left. He's right below me in the gallery view today. But we have a host of great business owners and businesses represented here today as well. And every week, John, we seem to have, it shows you what Irish e-commerce business is like at the moment. It's thriving with great energy and ideas and new businesses. And we're looking forward to hearing from each of them. We've got Donal Crotty here, who's the founder of littlewhitebull.ie. Hi, Donal, how are you? We've got Kanisha, Karara, and she's the head of e-commerce and digital marketing at Beercloud.ie. Sounds great to me, Kanisha.
Same here. Thank you.
We've got Stephen Jiang here. He's the founder and MD of Fervor and Hue. How are you, Stephen?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And we've got Natacha Segura, who's the owner of Mystic Ireland. How are you, Natacha?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Good. So let's start off. We always have a chat at the start, John. And I was looking back at last week's podcast, and it was very, very interesting. And it was all about sort of about changing consumer behavior post-pandemic Ireland and pandemic world, really. Your reflections on it, sense, or the takeaways that people can take to really push on with e-commerce. What did you think, John?
Yeah, good morning, Brendan. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see another really diverse collection of e-commerce businesses this morning. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Yeah, I mean, like we've been talking a little bit about, things like, customer service. We were talking about, how to generate traffic to your store, and I suppose the thing that I was sort of thinking about a little bit, like we've talked to so many really interesting businesses and really interesting offerings, and some of which I've gone on to purchase from since we met them in these calls. I sort of saying, well, wonder why I didn't find them before now, or God, there was certainly one or two that would have solved the problem I had, a while ago.
This podcast is costing you money already, then?
Oh, it is, for sure. But anyway, that's part of what we're trying to do here, is just make the connections between different people and what they're actually doing. And I was sort of thinking that, look at, as a nation, we are very internet savvy, e-commerce savvy. We actually buy quite a high proportion of our purchasing online. The only problem is we tend to do it with businesses outside the country, and particularly, you've got Amazon and eBay feature very, very highly, and that's true in the States and other places as well. So I was sort of thinking, like, okay, now that we've got the post-pandemic sort of vibe, if you like, of trying to buy local a little bit more. We've obviously got the new VAT rules that have come in on the 1st of July, which will make an impact on some purchases coming from outside the EU, etc., especially on those smaller price points. And even Brexit also was causing people to pause, buying from the UK, and with issues with customs duties, confusion about VAT, etc. So I think these things are all a nudge for Irish consumers, particularly, to move towards Irish owned and operated online stores. Then I think us as e-commerce practitioners and owners then need to double down on making sure that our offerings are actually found when people go out to actually look for products, look for services. And that sort of brought me around to the thinking that, yeah, while we do a lot of things on social and even YouTube and different areas to promote businesses, and that's all an important part of the mix, that actually it comes back to that fundamental program, which is search engine optimization and SEO, like actually having your business being found. And that's a topic that drives me mad in equal measure, because it has a bad reputation, and rightly so, for many people promising things that they can't deliver, and it's full of technical jargon. It makes it feel like a mystical thing, no pun intended, Natacha. But it's like there is a technical aspect to it, but I don't expect a painter to talk to me about the chemistry of the paint he's using when he comes in to paint my shop. And I think it's the same thing. We need to think about search engines and search engine optimization, because it's really, really simple. You know, Google became the biggest search engine for one simple reason and one simple reason only. They were completely maniacally focused on delivering the end user the best result or the best answer to the question that they asked or searched for. It's really that simple. And Google got very good at understanding what we value in terms of good content and user experience, and good at learning of what we would trust. So as an e-com operator, if Google looks at your site and can't understand it, doesn't see good relevant content, and doesn't see other people linking to it as a measure of its authority, then guess what? Google's not going to show it to anybody, and we're down the bottom of the sort of the dark alley that we talked about last week. You know, it's not a case of build it and they will come. You know, you have to be found, you have to be visible, people have to find you. So sort of the point becomes then looking at your own site, looking at your product pages, particularly, and asking one question. You know, does this page answer all the questions that a customer might ask a sales assistant in a real shop about this product? And is it clear, and is it understandable, and is it well presented? Because you know what, the chances of it does that, well, then it will also rank well on the search engines. And working with various businesses, we see that, look, if you're not generating 30 to 40% of your traffic coming from organic search, then everything else becomes a bit more of a struggle. You know, you can be successful. There are people, you know, successful with purely a social channel driving traffic, but generally speaking, in my experience, you have to have 30 to 40% of your traffic coming from SEO. That's a really good base. It converts well. It underpins and subsidizes all your other efforts. You know, so I'm sort of hoping for Brendan, or my ambition going forward is that, you know, I have a picture in my head that when I search for something in Google, you know, the first page is full of good quality Irish options to fulfill whatever I'm searching for, not just Amazon or out of country retailers. And, you know, in order for us to do that, you know, we have to think constantly and invest consistently in optimizing our experiences, our stores, to get that traffic. Because the bad news is it takes 12 to 18 months to make a dent in this. It's a long-term, you know, project. So you have to set your activity and budget with that in mind. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult to compete with Amazon on price. I mean, not that Amazon is a good outlet for some people, for sure. But product selection, the size of their catalog is always going to be huge compared to yours. But what you can compete on is, you know, how you present your offering, what that actual offering is, what additional insight and expertise you bring to the conversation. So how you communicate, how you can continue to be useful to your customers.
Yeah.
You know, because the pandemic taught us one other thing. We crave those connections. So don't forget about it as an e-com operator, is what I say to people. Like, think about that, connecting with your audience, using your content, your site to communicate, and converting them to raving fans and be part of your tribe going forward. That's the real basis of long-term success, because it's a long-term game.
John, before I go to the others, just there's a couple of things you said there I want to flesh out a small bit, because you work with a lot of Irish site owners, we'll say, and some very big and some medium sized and whatnot. The way you've explained to me, who's not an expert in e-commerce in any sort of a way, but the way you explain how to get a hold of SEO seems very simple to me. I mean, I kind of get it in terms of, you're saying make sure your website answers all the questions that as if a customer came into your store, right? Make sure they answer all the questions. Do you find that, because my impression of SEO before that was there's some kind of magic trick that I haven't learned yet that that'll sort out SEO for me. Do you think Irish businesses are getting to grips with this simple way of looking at SEO, that, listen, you've got to answer all the questions your consumers might have? Is it finally getting to grips with that?
Well, I mean, I think some of the successful guys are. I think a lot of people though aren't, to be honest, and they take a shortcut, you know, with their descriptions. They take a shortcut with the content on their site. It's a little bit thin, doesn't really explain. Like it's got to be relevant to what the customer is looking for. It's got to be helpful. So the focus has to be be useful and be helpful to your customer, because that's what will give you, that's the measure, of what you're trying to do. So if I'm looking for gifts, what help can I give the customers coming looking that's going to put me in the front, in the front row in terms of them actually making that purchase from me. How do I advise them, and it can be the sort of collection of products you put together, how they support each other, how they complement each other, what statement they make. But it really comes down to too many people, they have only one image or poor images on their product pages. They don't, you have 6 or 8 words describing the product and you really don't know what it looks like. There's too many surprises. And everybody has the right to return, with no quibbles. So you really don't want people returning stuff because that's a big cost on your operation if you're not doing it well. So the more you put into your content work, and you're in the content business now, basically, once you're an e-commerce operator, whether you like it or not, you're in the content business. And if you don't put the effort into that, then it's always going to be more difficult to be successful going forward. And you have to find the right mix of effort and investment to make sure that your content looks right. And look, it doesn't mean you can do a lot of this yourself, and because you are the expert, you should be able to do a lot of this. And generally what you need is help, maybe optimizing it or how you lay it out on the site, etc. But I think that too many people like social and other things, get all the sexy airtime, if you like, and they have a part to play. I look at this as you max out your paid search and SEO stuff first. And once you're doing that, then you need to go, because it doesn't scale infinitely. But after that, once you've got that bottom part of the funnel where people are looking for your products fixed, the rest of it then can be added to as a later investment.
Okay, great. Listen, the exciting bit for you and I, John, let's hear about the businesses. And I'll go first to Donal Crotty. Donal, tell us about yourself and tell us about your business and how is it going for you at the moment?
Hi, John and Brendan and the other guests. Thanks a million, first of all, for having me on today. Little White Bull is a family-run Irish company, and we sell Irish-designed handbags, jewellery, accessories, and gifts online. The motivation, I guess, for setting up the company came from being made redundant in Q4 of last year. I've always had a kind of a hankering or a want to set up a company on my own. Little did I think as a rugby player that it would be in the area of handbags and jewellery and ladies' accessories, to be honest with you. But here I find myself, and I was lucky enough to be introduced to this world of fashion through a good friend of mine who helped me set up. I suppose we have a number of offerings at the moment, and I suppose we're very much still within our infancy as a company. We launched on the 25th of November, and at that point our main focus was on the comfy home style of gifts. So coming into Christmas as well, we would have had an awful lot of novelty items such as furry massage slippers in Santa or reindeer style, LED hats, festive hats, that type of stuff, dressing gowns. And we had a good initial kind of month or two leading into Christmas. What helped in terms of that was the exposure we got through VIP magazine, and particularly we had a little slot on TV3 as well. So we generated a good bit of exposure through that. And then there's been a seismic shift, I suppose, since the turn of 2021. And we are focusing nearly exclusively on handbags, small leather goods, purses, the likes of that at the moment. We also have sunglasses, jewelry, all those type of accessories, and we cater for men as well in terms of sunglasses, and we'll hopefully be bringing shoes and the likes of that onto the platform shortly. So that's a whistle-stop tour where we are. We also have a presence on social with LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also a small presence on Pinterest also.
Very good.
Great. And always a brave decision, Donal, to jump into new business. And I know you're saying you were made redundant, and a lot of people were in 2020. but it's still quite brave to jump into a new business. Is it exciting or is it scary?
Yeah, it's quite daunting, obviously. I historically and from a professional point of view would have always been involved in real estate and finance. Being made redundant going into Christmas of last year, mid-pandemic, there was no prospect of any kind of alternative job in that sector. So rather than sitting on my laurels, I decided to do something about it and act on that hankering that I mentioned earlier on in terms of setting up my own company. So that element of it is exciting, but at the same time it's nerve-wracking. But where the excitement comes for me is the kind of interaction that you get from the learning curve. It was a massive steep learning curve. I knew nothing about handbags. I went from speaking about loan to values and leverage in the finance terms to crossover north-south handbags, gussets, the likes of that. An entirely different thing. Like, I mean, for example, on a Friday I finished up in a bank, and then on that Monday I was involved in a modeling shoot, displaying all the handbags which you can see here behind me, sunglasses, the likes of that. So it was one of the key, one of these words, trendy words that you hear during COVID is the concept of pivoting. And I think that was a total 180-degree turn for me over the course of 48 hours.
I was going to say, Donal, it sounded more like a pirouette, maybe even more than
absolutely. Yeah.
I was interested in you mentioned, like, obviously you started off with one product set, and then coming into this year you transitioned into leather goods, Irish design, that sort of theme, if you will. Mm-hmm. What drove that change, or what difference has that made then to the business in the meantime?
Yeah, there's a couple of factors to that. Initially, it was a seasonal thing and availability of stock. So seasonality was one item. Coming into Christmas, we had a focus on the novelty items, the cozy home. So as I mentioned earlier on, the type of products that we would have had were furry kind of dressing gowns and slippers and hot water bottles, all that type of stuff. Our stock, to be honest with you, is sold out prior to Christmas, and we looked for, I suppose, a shift in the dynamic, and an opportunity arose to get involved with handbags and ladies' accessories, and we took that on board. So there was a complete redesign of the website. We went for more kind of, it all happened very, very quickly. The initial website I set up, we used an e-commerce platform, which Shopify, I have no qualms in saying that. And I had no experience in doing it, so I cobbled it together myself. I have previously done a master's in marketing, but had never utilized it. So that all came together very quickly. And we had one type of look for the website at the start when we were involved in gifts. And then when we changed over in January of 21, I redesigned it in a more kind of confident fashion, knowing the type of styles and aesthetics that we wanted to have. And that married with the brands that we have now online as well.
Great. Listen, we'll talk more in a few minutes, Donal.
No problem.
But it's a very positive start to the podcast.
Thank you.
Let me go to you, Kanisha. I'm very interested in Beercloud.ie, especially because, personally speaking, Kanisha, I'm going to take a week off next week, and beer could play a serious part in that week. So tell me about Beercloud.ie.
First of all, thanks for having me here, and good morning to everybody. Beercloud is a pandemic baby. It's a complete product of the pandemic. Our founder, along with other Irish breweries, because of the pandemic and lockdowns on pubs, and they jumped onto this opportunity where they created this online portal, Beercloud.ie, wherein we sell craft beers, and our motive is to support the independent Irish breweries. And so we also wanted to make sure that these breweries stay afloat, because in the Irish market, in the Irish craft beer industry, there
We've lost you.
Jobs. There were a lot of jobs.
Kanishka, we're losing you there for a minute. The link isn't great. What I'll do, if you can hear me there, we'll come back to you just to see if the link improves a small bit, okay? And I'll maybe go down to Stephen. So Kanishka will be with us again in a minute, no doubt. But Stephen, you're the founder of and MD now of Fervor and Hue.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you there, Kanishka.
Yeah, sure.
We'll give you a minute or two, Kanishka, just to make sure that it's okay. We'll take Stephen and we'll come back to you on that, just to keep a flow of the I want to keep the beer in my mind, so I'm going to start again with you and go through it, okay? Stephen, tell us about Fervor and Hue.
I don't know about that, Brendan. I kind of want to hear about the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I tell you about Fervor and Hue. I suppose to start off, my name is Stephen Jiang. I set up a Fervor and Hue back in 2016, just about 5.5 years ago, with my wife. And I suppose we set up our online store about 12 months later. And we actually marked a great milestone there during the pandemic. We shipped our 6,000 parcels worldwide, which is quite a nice moment for us anyway.
Great.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great because like we started with the business, it was one retail store in Cork City, and now we able to kind of deliver worldwide, which is fantastic. I suppose the background of the business is probably I very similar to Donal there. I was in the finance game for many years, in the corporate business for many years, and my wife and we decided to go traveling for a bit, and when we came back, we always have the ambition to kind of set up something on our own. And my wife is from Cork, and my family is originally from China, and they still live in China. So the corporate world of a 21 days or 23 days holidays is just going to cut it between the traveling between the both for me. So I just want to kind of was more in control of my time and want to able to spend I suppose to get the mixture of our work and life balance, able to kind of like travel between both countries, which is very, I suppose, important to us. And then I suppose that's where the home interior business kind of was born. And my wife and I both have an interest in this area. And I suppose based on where I come from originally, and with my background from finance and logistics, I able to have, have those kind of connections in China. And then I was, been living in Ireland for the last 20 years. So I understand the market. And that's how the brand started.
Yes.
5.5 years ago. So we're growing strength to strength every year. So thank God, may last.
Yes, yeah. And did you find much of a difference during the pandemic period then, Stephen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like before the pandemic kick off, I mean, our online business was only 10% of our overall business, and since 2020, when the pandemic first started, I mean, obviously that become pretty much 100% of your business overnight. And then we're just seeing the phenomenal growth through the online business. And like in turn, then we have to change our, I suppose, our system, our operation system, the inventory management system, how we our staff skill set. We have to shifting staff from a retail business to supporting the online growth. It was definitely a fun, interesting, and a challenging time. And we're kind of glad we done it, because we've been talking about doing it for years, and eventually we actually have to bite the bullet and just do it. And we're in a much better place for it now.
That's interesting, because I've been like, one of the things that I'm really interested in is I find my belief is retailers are now going to have to be multi-channel. You're going to have, it's not always one or other. You're not always just purely online or purely bricks and mortar, but it's making the combination of the two. That's a really powerful one. And what we found was that people who had been doing 10, 15% of their business online were just in such a better place to accelerate that. And it was partly because they were learning. They may not have been doing everything very well, but they had the basis in place to actually accelerate and drive forward. So
absolutely agree with John. Absolutely. But sure, like if you think about it, if you're 90% of your revenue coming from retail, obviously you're going to invest in that area. And when there's 100% is coming from online and zero coming from retail, then you kind of go, now it's the time to invest the money somewhere else, and now when you come out to the other end, you kind of go, okay, retail is opening again, the split of investment become kind of go, okay, well, look, I still need to keep my online going as long as I can, and then you kind of reinvest back into retail as well. But what I found now is since we reopened is our retail team, it becomes more, they spend more time on their phones, because we get a lot of more online traffic, and then what they do is they like the crew is coming. It's not just the customer coming to the door anymore. I mean, they can reach you anywhere. I mean, there's going to be online messages, Facebook messaging, and just so Instagram, and there's and just on our website, they can contact you at any point, and you have to, your retail staff now has to kind of switch the mindset, able to answer for all those channels.
Is that a challenge for you managing staff in that way, Stephen?
It's a I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I suppose it's a mindset change, right? So you kind of go, instead of just managing, explain to the team that you're not just talking to people walking the door anymore. I mean, you could get a phone call from Donegal, you have to look after the customers the same way, right? And they're going to have the exactly same question as somebody walking the door. And then you're going to have a message from Monaghan and on Facebook, and you have an answer that explain the same thing. Just finding I suppose the key challenge is probably retraining some of our team that all these platforms, and making sure it become a routine. As you got to routinely check this every day. I used to have the mindset that I hate any our team to be on the shop floor with the phone. Right. And now it's become their left arm. You have to. That's just the way that's the way things are at the moment.
Great. Before we go to Natacha, I want to keep you to the end, Natacha. I'm very interested in what you're doing, but let me go back to Kanisha. How is our link there, Kanisha?
I think it's good.
Good. So you pick up that thread again that you were telling us in terms of it's a pandemic baby. And yes, people did have that void of the pubs, we'll say. So that was the opportunity for Beercloud.
Yes, it was. And we really believe that if the Irish breweries thrive, we thrive. And we saw this opportunity, and when the pubs, because of the lockdown, they were closed down, we came up with a box of pub pack among many other beer boxes, and it brings to you delicious craft brews as well as the pub snacks which you can expect. So it's like a virtual or a home kind of environment where you can enjoy with the family.
I like it. I have to admit, I'm actually online now looking at Beercloud.ie, right? And I can see the Biden box. Will you tell us about the Biden box? 12 American style beers.
Yes. Those are American style beers, but they're Irish made.
Sure.
And so when the president of US was elected, it's all about creating those moments and promoting that, and so that we are kind of creating that excitement in the business, and there's nothing, repetitive or monotonous. So we came up with this box when the prelude to this box was also the bye-bye box, which was also an American style beer made in, but that was when Trump was going and Biden was coming in.
The bye-bye box, I love it.
Yes, we had the bye-bye box. Then we had the Biden box, and now we have the 4th of July box because this is that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and how's it going for you?
So it's been pretty good, though I would admit the sales are sometimes up, sometimes down. But given it's just 1 year, it's remarkable what Beercloud has done. And we've been very lucky with our customers, not just B2C, even B2B. We also cater to B2B clients because corporate gifting has been the trend of this lockdown, keeping your employees happy.
Sure.
A lot of clients like that as well.
Yeah.
So it's been really good. And we've also been lucky, like you said, that our sales should also come from the organic search. So if you see the metrics, most of our search is for Beercloud. And that's a very plus point because as a small business, you've just started, brand awareness plays a very important role. And we are happy that customers recognize our brand and that's what they search, and that leads them to our website.
Those brand searches are always the best converting because they're the people who know you, and they, as I say, the way I look at it, Kanisha, is very much it's a subsidy on your other activities because you're getting really good results in that channel, and it helps pay for some of the more expensive acquisition tactics you have to. The other one, and as I said, I was really I guess beer is always going to be a talking point, right? The other thing I noticed that you're also offering was a subscription model, and that's something that a number of different businesses have been trying, and it's very I'd say fashionable in some respects. Let's try and get people on a repeat purchase cycle, and I was curious just to see how that had gone for you, and was it successful, and is it something that you would see developing going into the future?
Box because people like new beers at their door every month, and we always make sure that none of the beers are repeated in our monthly boxes. And there were challenges in terms of the technical part because the beers need to be updated every month, and we have to make sure the workflows are correct. That's a little bit hiccup. But we've been doing really well because they account for most of our sales, as well as people give them a lot. They just don't want to gift on one occasion, but they make like a monthly reminder. So that's a very good idea.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Because I've done a little bit of work with a couple of small breweries, and it's a really, really challenging business to guarantee success, because people who like my experience of craft beers, they'll try this one this week, but they'll try a completely different one next week, or they'll want something the next time. So having repeat business from the same customer is a challenge. Whereas I guess an aggregator like yourselves bringing so many of these together, I mean, that's a great idea. And if I'm interested in my craft beers, I don't have to do the work of finding them. You're going to bring them to me, and now you have an audience that all of those breweries can work with, and I think it's a great idea. And
John, if I can pick up the gift idea, the gift element of it is excellent, because immediately I can think of people I'd love to send boxes to on birthdays or big occasions or whatever,
Which has been a theme that we. Sorry,
I'm so sorry. You'll be surprised to know that 50 to 60% of our orders are actually as gifts.
Yes.
So it's a very good trend going on.
That's interesting, and that's another pandemic theme. I think we've been hearing the last number on these podcasts, like even people we had gifting clients on, or businesses, and they'd move from sort of wedding gift type thing to actually mindfulness and wellness, self-care type gifts, that type of thing, which again is a trend we've seen through these conversations. So that's interesting.
Right. John, if I can just give you a bit of a nudge, the COVID collection box, you can sort me out for my next birthday. Thanks a million on that.
Or just like a thank you gift as well.
Good stuff.
Great. And now let's go to Natacha. Natacha, tell us about yourself, first of all, and what you do, and then tell us about your experience online.
Right. So thank you so much for having me here today and meeting you, all of you. Mystic Island. Mystic Island is an online store, e-commerce store that offers holistic products. That means products that are meant to treat the individual as a whole. That means combining energy and mental by the use of crystals, for instance, crystals that can be rough in their natural way, or they can be polished by man, like in hearts, spheres, beautiful points, all
Sure.
these with idea to improve the energy of the people in your house. I also offer crystals that can be beautiful to enhance the energy at home. Also, I offer oil, essential oils, sage, yoga tools, and all these that are meant to help people now in this wave of wellness, mindfulness, and support people on this special moment that we are living on.
Yes.
You can find Mystic Island at www.mysticisland.ie. You can also find me or join me in Instagram at Mystic Island 1, where I'm doing videos about crystals, because many people don't know how to use and what is that, how they can help you, how they can interact with your energy. So you can find me there where I'm sharing information, and also Facebook. And now it's possible, if you want to see the crystals and everything, you can go to the design house at the heart of Temple Bar.
All right.
So
Great. So
yes.
you have a retail element as well as an online element. Then you have a retail element in Temple Bar.
Yes, I start mainly online, but I'm looking to combine these two, online, and at the same, I would like to have the retail option. So what I have there is a little space in which I can have my crystals and my products and my sage and everything. What I have found is that thanks to this new boom that people are more in the social media, and now people don't look at Instagram only for looking at somebody else's photos, but instead now we're looking at Instagram as a commercial tool. So thanks of that, the small businesses like me can start. And then my main, let's say, tool is social media through Instagram. And it's amazing to see how my audience have been richer now in terms of variety in ages. Like not only young people that were already used to Instagram, but now I see more people that are very new on Instagram and I'm looking at the products as a new platform for commercial purposes, which I love. And also, it's very good because people feel so comfortable with it. So how Stephen was saying, for me, I can establish a closer relationship with my clients. So they can always drop me a message, I will see them, I can contact them easier in regard to any order, or I can meet them, they can meet me. So yes, I have seen that in the past year or so, people are so much into this. And at last, even if e-commerce is nothing new, it has more than 40 years, it's now when I feel that finally we broke the ice, and now buying online is like we have incorporated as an ordinary activity. So thanks of that, small businesses like me can start online first, and then we'll go and grow and so on.
Which is sort of the opposite journey in some respects to what Stephen obviously had done previously, you know, being retail first and then developing towards online. And in danger of being stereotypical, I mean, is your audience, Natacha, is it female, male? Is it mixed? Is it because obviously when we use the social platforms, we know they work better for certain audiences than others. And I was just curious to know what sort of split your audience had, if you like.
Yeah, mainly female.
Yeah. Okay.
Female. And what I've noticed is not only young females, but there is an audience there eager to learn, and they are new in the platform. That's what I have noticed.
Right. Okay.
But I have male as well. So yeah.
Because it has been a challenge for many brands, and I don't know, Donal or Stephen, if you guys use, you know, the social platforms in the same way, like it has been, and you're right, it's improving. But what we saw previously was a lot of traffic coming from social just didn't convert. It was interesting, it drove lots of visits, views, but we didn't actually drive sales. And we're definitely seeing an improvement, and some of the new tools that the platforms are bringing out in terms of, you know, Facebook and Instagram shops, etc., all help that. But I think that there is a right way of going about it as well in terms of getting conversions from that audience.
Yes. It's good that all these platforms have evolved with all of this. So let's say Instagram now have the option to do a live show, which I have done live shows. So you have the opportunity to buy online, you see the product, you interact with the seller. So this is great, like for a small business like me.
It becomes your version of QVC or whatever. Donal, I mean, I guess handbags, you know, that sort of space, I would guess, is sort of very Instagram friendly as well, or am I
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I suppose the main thrust of our traffic to the website comes through Facebook and Instagram. I suppose 90 to 95% of our customers would be women between the ages of 35 to 70. That's our demographic, and that aligns itself, I suppose, predominantly with Facebook. So initially, when we set up, we had looked at Google Ads and also Facebook ads. We found Facebook actually more, I suppose, relevant and also easier to deal with at the time, being perfectly honest. And there was a nicer fit between our demographic and there was a ready-made audience there on Facebook. So we focus most of our energies towards the Facebook audience and Instagram as well.
Donal, what about John's point at the start in terms of SEO? How do you find SEO?
Yeah, no, that's something which I suppose as a term I was not too familiar with at the start. And again, this is only going back 6-8 months, but it's something that becomes immediately relevant and immediately or abundantly clear that you need to be kind of on top of that game. So we had actually, obviously I had no direct experience in that, so we engaged a digital marketer to assist in that element of things. So that has proven to be, you know, something which is obviously integral to the performance of the website and driving traffic and an audience to your website and converting sales. We kind of monitor that through the analytics, which are available on a monthly basis. But it is an ever evolving kind of thing. So, you know, you test. We're still very much in our infancy and testing an awful lot of words to see what actually works. Tweaking that, you know, combinations of words as well to see what best fits. So, you know, it changes on almost a daily basis, to be honest with you.
Yeah, staying abreast of it is always one of the challenges. Yeah. And you know, sort of the point I was making earlier, you got to settle in with whoever you're working with and know that you're going to be working with them for 12 or 18 months to really see you know, good results. So there has to be, I find you have to have that really good working relationship, whoever's working with you on it, and then set off at the right pace and with the right expectations, and that's what really delivers good long-term benefits. Yeah, that's good.
Stephen, what about you in SEO? How did you find it?
It's yeah, it's a tough one, because we at the beginning we would have spent quite a long time on the SEOs and try to get the names right, try to get the what's it called? What's the word? The image, the tag title, etc. Yeah, all this stuff, right? But the problem is, it's a very hard thing to maintain because it's a very time consuming job. The bigger your product range, the harder it gets, right? And we have grown our product range over 1,200 different products now, right? And it's very hard to do them for every single one of them. And you like I find I drop the ball a lot more than I pick it up. Do you know what I mean? So so it's very hard, and I think the SEO part, and also with SEO is you don't see the immediate results as well. Like what John was saying, you only see it in 12 or 18 months time, and so that's very hard to kind of motivate you to keep going with it. I think that's why a lot of people turn to Facebook ads and etc. You see more immediate results, but I think in our case at the moment, I think you have to do, like we do all of them. We do a mixture of them. We do Google ads, we do Facebook ads, Instagram ads, while at the same time we try to maintain the SEO as well. So I think the whole consumer behavior now, like the people are consuming content differently now, right? And they were during the pandemic times. Like Facebook ads was really effective before, but now it doesn't as effective anymore, right? Because the Apple privacy setting kicks in, so that pretty much switch off a tap there, and so now you have to really kind of rethink your strategy again, change your plan again. But I think the key thing is to create content, useful content. Doesn't matter how you distribute that. Right, that could be on your website, it could be through Facebook, through Instagram, through live shows or whatever. It's just useful content for your customer, and they will follow you. You know?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. It's the core of making it successful. And I would like to make sure that you post all of that on your website and then use the social channels to distribute it, to give it reach. That's generally the mix that we find most powerful. Because at least you own the equity in the content when it's on your site and it's there for you forever. Whereas I always feel like you're sort of renting it when you're on the social platforms. It's sort of Facebook's, it's Instagram's content more so than ours maybe, and that's always a bit of a frustration, depending on where the traffic ends up afterwards. For
absolutely.
Sure.
And Kanisha, from your point of view, there's a lot of content potential with Beercloud, isn't there?
Yeah, but there are also certain limitations because we are in the alcohol industry. So those policies also factor in because we can't just advertise everywhere. But SEO is really important, even I feel so, and we have to be patient with it. But we're trying and we're getting there, and I think we rank quite good when someone is searching for craft beer in Ireland. So it's been really good.
Yes, and again, nearly Natacha, the same with yourself. As you said, there's a great movement towards wellness and all of that, mindfulness. So there's huge content potential there as well from your point of view, isn't there?
Oh yes, I can see that people are more interested in this and the use of crystals, and people is eager to know what it is and how they can use them and how they can improve their life with this.
Great. John, I think that brings to an end another great and very interesting podcast. Any pointers that you'd like to give at the end of our chat today?
Yeah, well, it looks like we found another pandemic baby or two, right? On this instance, it's been one of the themes. I suppose the two or three sort of nuggets in terms of that I was just listening to the conversation that we've had this morning. First of all is the idea of multi-channel sometimes, so that retail and online, both support each other, and making those two things work together is important for people. and even staff behavior and you know, making people be able to support both channels and realizing that's a challenge within the business and addressing it, which are some of the things that Stephen was talking about earlier. I think the availability of stock, I think that was part of what fed into Donal's even, you know, change in direction in terms of some of the elements. And again, it feeds into our sort of, you know, buying local or staying with Irish brands. And not that that's the answer to everything, but it's a point of differentiation that people maybe, you know, subscribe to and then help get us there. Growth of corporate gifting as a channel, you know, obviously that even for Beercloud, and it's one I wouldn't have thought so much of, but it actually makes sense when Kanisha sort of explains it as well. And it's all about finding these other audiences and niches. And that takes us back to the last thing we talked about, is really finding your audience and being useful and helpful to your audience. You know, whether that's their interest is in interior design, or it's in mindfulness and wellness and holistic topics. It's finding a way to be able to celebrate at the weekend, or other gifts that we need for all of the sort of times that, you know, we need to do those sort of things. So working where your audience is and supporting it and being useful to it is such a key part of being successful. So they were the 3 or 4 thoughts, Brendan, that sort of came out from, you know, talking to the folks this morning, and I think they're all very, very valid and you know, reinforces the conversation we've been.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I think that brings to an end our podcast. I wanted to thank Donal Crotty, Stephen Jiang, Kanisha Karara, and Natacha Segura. And I want to wish continued success to each of you in all of your online businesses. And as usual, the big man himself, John Leach, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, everyone.